Welcome to the No Name Brand Podcast. My name is Sashka Hanarapal, actress, singer, dancer, turned brand marketing, sales, and advertising strategist who brands your soul. And each week I bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover your undergod, turn up your leadership notches, challenge the status quo, because you're fast and furious with a powerful message to share with the world. Thank you for taking time out with me today, and without further ado, let's get our creative and wisdom juices flowing. That moment you take your life into your own hands and make a choice to live it. It's a profound one. It's a moment when you value you being here on earth more than anything else. And one of the most challenging steps is learning to listen to your higher self, your intuition. And once you listen to it, to know how to act on it. I'm sure you've been at many crossroads or had many sleepless nights with a burning question you want an answer to. And it doesn't feel as though as though anyone outside of you can help you answer those questions other than your higher self. But how do you learn to listen to that self and ask the right questions, that soul part of you, without being distracted by your emotions, your thoughts, and noise? Our next guest has the talent in flipping the switch to shine the light on your most sought after answers that lie within and gives your soul a voice. Please help me in welcoming the effervescent, charming, and spiritual teacher, Tanya Arler. Hello, Tanya.
Hello, Sashka. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Yay!
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. So lovely, lady. I'm so excited. I just let the listeners know that this is one lady that I am working with. I have the pleasure of working with her or the honor, and I'm very excited to share her with you here today. So I'm going to dive right in and start asking you that there are so many methods to working on your energy of your soul, but I haven't come across many methods in which your soul speaks to you and where you can hear it. Share with us your tools as a spiritual teacher to help us hear our soul or higher self and how you do it. Share with us your magic, darling.
Okay. The main tool that I use that I think I'm most well known for is working with, I do mandala work. I work with mandalas, but I do it with my own personal twist. I call it intuitive art or creative therapy. And I think I have people connect with whatever their question is or whatever they're dealing with or whatever they want answers to. And they just color. They color in a circle. That's really all there is to it. It's not any rocket science, and it's definitely not an artistic endeavor. It's more letting your creative juices go. And what that does, or from the person doing it, what I think the magic is that when you're coloring or when you're doing anything creative, you're not stimulating your language area of your brain, which means you're not judging and you're not self-criticizing, because it's only when we use language to describe something that we become self-critical or judgmental. If we're not looking for a word, we don't have to put a value on it. So by coloring and by just connecting with whatever your question is, you're really opening up your own channel to yourself in order to put on paper what you really, really need to hear. It's like, I feel like I'm giving your soul an opportunity to tell you what you need to hear. And then the carry on of that, if you want me to carry on,
yes,
is that from there, that's just the beginning of the work you do with me. I mean, anyone drawing a mandala at home, by all means do it. You will glean information all by yourself. It's just by going through the process, you'll open a whole bunch of stuff up. But if you work with me, or what the next steps are, what I try to do is I go through an interpretation of that mandala with you. And what I do is I connect to your soul. I connect to your inner voice and help you hear what it's trying to say to you. And just because at that point you've had someone giving you those words that are within yourself, you suddenly realize or learn how to start hearing them yourself. Because you go, oh, okay, yeah, all right, that makes sense to me. And you kind of intuitively feel within yourself where that was actually coming from within you. Yeah, and then I think it's a 3-part step. So we have the draw it, then there's the interpretation where we talk about what you were saying. It's kind of the snapshot of where you are. And then the magic is, the true magic is you go back to that mandala after we talked about what you were saying and what that snapshot is telling you about your life, you go back to it and you change it. You shift it. I call it the shift. And you take that energy and that metaphorical piece of yourself and you go back to it and you work on it and you make it look like what you want it to look like. What I think is super cool is that two things. First of all, we can't start from scratch. You don't start a new mandala. You stay on that mandala, you take from where you were and you turn it into what you want it to be. And that's what life is like, right? We're a collection of our experiences and our journey. We can't just pretend that didn't happen. It's reshaping and remolding and shifting into what we want it to be. And then the second part that I think is cool, and I get this countless times with customers over and over again, when they go back to try to create that shift, there's anticipation, there's a little bit of fear, there's excitement, there's all kinds of nervousness. And the minute they start working on that shift, not only can you see, but they tell me that they feel different. Like it happens, you can feel it happening and it's happening in the moment. So that's what I love, my favorite part of the work I do, because I'm like, oh, that's so exciting. Yay.
Freaking time out. Hang on.
Yeah.
5 seconds. I know that that is what I'm experiencing with these mandalas. Is when I started off, I was like, seriously, I'm just going to, okay, I just draw whatever. And then the way that you do everything and then the journey that I've been on, I'm like, oh my God, things that have opened up. And like you say, it was, if I'd used words, writing it, I would have used so much self-criticism and judgment and been a little bit apprehensive of putting something out there. But with the picture, you're just drawing, you just kind of, oh, it's kind of like doodling. And then the stuff that comes out, I'm like, oh, where did you see that? Oh, that's like, and for those that are not familiar with the woo-woo world, I put it, or the juju of Tanya, it's sometimes like, how do you can't communicate with your soul. That just sounds too freaky. Like, seriously? Like how, and I was trying to explain it to a family member of mine because they're not on the same level, not that it's higher or better than, I'm just on a different level.
Page. Yeah.
A different page, exactly. And they were saying, I don't get it. I don't know, like, how do you speak to soul? And it was really, well, I'm not going to give my version. I would like you to explain, like, how do you speak to your soul? Like, how do you listen to that soul? How do you know it is your soul that's actually speaking to you?
Well, see, what I love about what I do is that we can go into the woo-woo explanation, and I call myself Ooby Dooby Tanya, by the way. That's my woo-woo, Ooby Dooby Tanya. We can go into the Ooby Dooby Tanya version of it, or we can take it, we can call it intuition and go from there. If I'm speaking to someone that's not Ooby Dooby or woo-woo, I start with that explanation of you're just disconnecting yourself from your language center and you're letting your intuition speak. Now, how do you speak of that? By letting it go and then walking away and listening. And really, you're making a visual version. And it's always easier to have something tangible, because when you're feeling, hearing, connecting with your intuition or your soul, we'll talk about the soul in a minute, it's gone the minute you felt it or seen it. So by putting it on paper, you're actually able to look at it and say, okay, this means something and nothing is an accident. Why would I have done that? And you have a chance to look at it. What I encourage people to do, or that are struggling to hear their intuition or their soul, is to use this exercise. Draw, step away from it, look at it and go, okay, wow, that was in there to begin with. Where could I have heard that? Where could I have felt that? Where could that have happened? The bottom line is we have 70,000 thoughts, perceptions, impulses, imprints that come to us every single day. And our brain, our conscious brain cannot process them all. So our soul, our intuition, whatever you want to call it, we process 10% in our conscious brain. The other 90%, 60,000, whatever, is floating around in this kind of your own collective energy around you, but it's available to you. Just because it's not been consciously processed in your brain, it doesn't mean that it's not still there and that you are not able to access that by doing the right thing. And the example I would give on a real practical level, I say to people, everyone's had the situation where they've wanted to buy, for example, I'm going to buy a red car. No one has a red car. I'm going to buy a red car. And suddenly, boom, everywhere you go, you're seeing red cars. That is just that pool of information that you have accessible to you that you've flagged. You've sent a flag down to your subconscious to say, all right, now I want to start seeing the red cars. Make that be something that I see and notice and pay attention to. It's not like there's suddenly more red cars. It's just that you have sent a message to yourself that you now have put an importance on that, and it will start sending that stuff up to your conscious mind so you can do something with it. Because it's like everything in the world, if you don't ask, you don't receive.
Oh, yes.
It's just not going to send it up there if you're not. So just by opening up that process of doing a mandala or asking yourself a certain question or pondering something or reading a quote that makes you think, whatever it is, you suddenly, and you say, that's interesting. You suddenly will start receiving all that stuff that's already there, like magically appearing from nowhere. It's already there. You're just able to do it. Now, if we take the woo-woo side, the Ooby-Dooby Tanya side, ancient Indian practice would say that when you draw something, anything in a circle, you're drawing a piece of your soul.
Ooh, goosebumps.
And now I breathe. So what you're also doing is you're making a connection. You're opening up a conduit that might otherwise have been small or blocked or not conscious where it was or how it worked. And the minute you start opening up that channel to yourself, you suddenly have created a highway of information. Now, your soul doesn't have words. It can't speak to you. It can only make you feel things. So it's learning the language of your own soul. Ooh, actually, when I get scared, when I feel fear, it's not actually fear of it. I'm not actually in danger. It's actually my own personal resistance to change that's coming through. Or it's not fear at all. I'm actually really, really excited. But once when I got excited a long, long time ago, I got burned. And so now I'm afraid to feel excited again. But I'm just throwing out some examples. But really, how you feel is the only way your subconscious, your intuition, or your soul, call them all three of them in one. That's the only way they can communicate with you. And it's learning how to hear that.
Oh, I love that. I'm goosebumps. Head to toe. Head to toe. How has your message, how has you and your message shifted over the years? Have you always been so confident and strong in what you're talking about?
I don't even know how to say that. I mean, I think I started my journey by saying, I believe anything is possible until you prove to me that it's not possible.
Oh, I like that.
That doesn't mean I think it's true, but it means I'm open to it. So I think I've always been connected. I don't really call myself a channel or anything like that because I don't hear voices and I don't see visions and I don't really know what a channel is and I don't really know what I do, but I've always had a sense. I've always known stuff that other people don't know is how known stuff that I've had no business knowing is how I kind of like described it before. So information would come in. I haven't always trusted it. And that was a learning process of saying, oh, I think that's going on, or this is kind of weird, or, oh, I'm sensing this. And then you kind of go, nah, it's not happening. It's what we all do, right? No, that's not true. And then your rational mind takes over and you find another explanation. But with time, well, actually what happened, I finally said to my husband, I said, I feel stuff that's kind of weird. I need to say it out loud to someone so that I don't think I've made it up later on, right? Because then something would happen. I go, oh, but I thought about that. And then, so I started saying it and I got this confirmation of, and he's like, okay, you said that. You nailed it. At one point I said I think my friend Claire's pregnant. And he's like, huh? Who's Claire? It doesn't matter. And then 2 months later, I'm like, oh my God, Claire's pregnant. He's like, who? I was like, girl, yeah. But I mean, and it's not that I predict stuff mostly, but it's more the information and the wisdom that comes to me is a combination of what comes to me and also having this attitude of anything is possible. I have done the classes and the courses and the research and read the books and gone to I've been to Eternal Flame and I've checked it all out with an open mind of saying, where can I gain knowledge and wisdom and connect in? This is where I've ended up.
And always stayed pretty strong.
I think so.
Strong in your, is it opinion?
In my conviction that everyone has the strength within them to create a life that they want to change their life in the way they want to.
Yeah.
Every single person has that possibility. And what I hope to do with my work more than anything, and when I talk about flipping the switch, is to turn on a light so that they suddenly see that they do have that possibility, that they can do that. And what I hope to do with my enthusiasm is to bring them hope. Not only can you you, but yes, be hopeful and be excited, because gosh, life is so much better when we're excited and hopeful.
It makes you more curious and more imagination. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I myself have done or am doing a mandala of your soul packages. I can say that it has definitely helped me. This is my second one that I'm doing, and I'm hearing my soul's voice, where at first I was like, what the hell? Are you serious? And whenever I walk past my mandala, I hear stuff. And at that moment, I'm like feeling stuff and I hear it. And then a few hours later, or maybe even an hour or a few minutes later, you'll message me. You're like, so I'm just checking in because I got a feeling. How do you do that? Well, not how. Like, I know you'll send something, but
I mean, it's a learned experience a little bit, but it's more like when people work with me, it's not just that one moment. They come onto my radar, right? I call it my radar, and suddenly it's almost like Facebook Messenger. Suddenly I get like, ding, I wonder how Sashka's doing. That's how it feels. I wonder how Sashka's doing. Yeah, I think I need to check in. It's been too long. And then sometimes what's interesting, and that's a struggle that everyone has, but what's interesting, sometimes I'll think, I haven't heard from Saskia in 3 days. That's not good. And that's my ego going, but I want her to be working on my stuff. And I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, actually, she's doing fine. So I check it when I have these things. I check in and I kind of say, all right, is this my ego saying these are the rules and it should be going forward? Or am I just kind of sensing, all right, the natural flow of things? And it's really your logic and your intuition and your feeling and your thinking. And then there's feeling, thinking, and then there's knowing, right? Which is a whole different level. And it's trusting that you have access to this pool of information that I was talking about in your subconscious, and is connected to your soul, and your soul is connected to everything else. Now, I have fine-tuned mine over the year because it has been my purpose to do so, right? That's my life's purpose, and this is what I'm meant to be doing, and it makes me super duper happy when I'm doing it. So that's why I fine-tuned it, but it doesn't mean that other people can't. Yeah. It means that's just not what they're here to do right now, but maybe they do need to hear the message from me of, you don't have to do it for the rest of the world, but maybe connect in with yourself. And I just want to say one more thing about the mandala, and particularly working with you, Sashka, and kind of when I go into, there's the mandala work, and then there's the deep mandala work, where what I love about it is just from this single picture, we can build, and then the person doing it will say, oh yeah, I've jumped this step. But then I can say, do you want to go another step? And they say yes. And then you jump another step, and there's just step after step after step. And that really, to me, it's not proof, but that is just this indicator of you're really connected to yourself, because there's no way I can push you forward that way if it's not coming from within yourself. And the steps that people can make them because it's themselves that are doing it. Often when we go to coaches, sometimes what we need is someone to push us along and guide us. But when you're working on that soul level, it's all about what you are telling yourself. And that's what I think is beautiful.
I'm just a little bit speechless at the moment. I'm like, yes, that is so true. Yeah. What I'd love to know as well is, well, you've traveled a lot. You've been traveling a lot over your lifetime.
Yes.
And you've seen a lot of the world and met a lot of people and spoken a lot of languages and met a lot of cultures. And it's definitely opened whatever tunnel vision was there before. Do you feel that traveling and meeting so many different people has expanded your talents to hear the soul's voice clearer through different characteristics? So you're able to kind of like compartment, put things into, I don't want to say boxes, but you're able to say, okay, well, this is like a pattern happening over there. This is a pattern happening over there. So you're able to kind of like do a matrix thing.
I never thought about it. So this is a good pondering. But when you say it, I'm like, yeah, it's definitely broadened my scope of wisdom is the best words I can think of, in that I've seen so many different cultures and how they express the same thing differently, that you then can, and that's a kind of on a macro level of a cultural level. But then when I go back to kind of the individuals, wherever I'm in the world, it definitely has helped me realize that the result of what I'm seeing, or their behavior or their actions or their words, is not necessarily the source or reflecting the source. It's their way of doing it, and that there's other ways of doing it, more importantly than anything else. Like what you learn is like when you've traveled around, I'm an expat, I land in a country and people do things differently than me, and you want to get frustrated or angry, or all these emotions come up, and you just realize, you know what? They do it that way because that's what their journey has taught them to do. And you then put that on an individual level and you go, oh, wow. Yeah, wow. We all live our own reality, and one is not right and one is not wrong. And I was lucky enough, I've lived in I suppose the biggest extremes is I've lived in Japan and I've lived in Italy, which really is kind of night and day difference. And it all boils down to all people want to have good lives, and just everyone wants to be a good person and be happy and have a purpose and have a meaning. And that's kind of definitely one beautiful thing. But you also feel their heritage. Like, I've just been in South Africa, and you can feel the energy of the people, that it's been down a long road, but you feel hope there, right? And that is reflected in the people as well. And so it's definitely broadened my world. And from a personal level, it's pushed me into a situation where I've had to look within for my own confidence, because I've so often been landed in a country or a culture that I don't necessarily understand, because I'm not from there. And the only way you can get through that or around that is, without losing your mind, is believing in yourself, right? So that confidence of, okay, this is what makes me happy, and I have to continue doing that. So that's definitely been a bonus.
What has been one of the most memorable places and moments in your life, and why?
Japan is definitely Tokyo is the most amazing place to live. I could go on forever and ever and ever. So I'll try to pick out a couple of moments. I mean, what I found fascinating about Japan was that there's this dichotomy. There's these two sides of this culture. One that's totally conformist, and people that go to work wear black suits, black ties, and have an empty briefcase that they're carrying because they have to carry a briefcase, not because there's anything in it. And they're going through the motions of life, and there's all these rules and boxes and conformism that's huge. And yet, you can walk down the street in the middle of the day and you'll see a lady tottering around in 6-inch heels with a Santa Claus outfit on, a little sexy Santa dress. And you're going, and she's not even a prostitute, just a normal everyday person wearing what she feels like wearing. And you're like, wow, that is like so cool. And I could say for me and my family that as conformist as Japan is and appears to be, it's the place that my whole family felt, the one place my whole family felt like we could wear, do, or be anything. And it would be okay. Like, mostly because we couldn't be no matter what we did, we couldn't be the weirdest person on the street. So like, I actually one day walked by a lady that was dressed as Little Bo Peep. Tuesday at 2:00, 25-year-old girl, right? And you're like, and you stop and you stare, because you're like, am I really seeing this? Is she going to a costume party? What's going on? And you look and you're like, no, she is just going about her day, and that's who she is. So, and then I suppose more than anything, that kind of teaches you this whole, gosh, judgment sucks.
Yeah.
Right. And just going through life, and then moving back to Europe was a shocker, because then we're like, oh, now we have to my daughter, who was 6 at the time, had blue hair, and my son had long hair, and I was wearing, I don't know, just, I was wearing patchy ripped jeans, but they're really super duper patchy. And this is 8 years ago. And my across the street neighbor, who I really liked in Belgium, he actually said to me, "On porte pas ça ici." We don't wear that here. I'm like, yeah, I do. He's like, okay. So the world is a great place. And if every time you step out of your world, it grows and it gets bigger and you become a part of that place. And that's really, really neat.
What are the aspects of your field that you know the most about, that you feel the most confident in?
I suppose I feel the most confident that if someone comes to me with wanting an answer or a solution or a change and they want it, I feel absolutely without a doubt confident that I can help them get there.
Goosebumps.
I also feel completely confident that everyone can change their life, and that it's not rocket science. It's not hard. It's little things that need to change that can create such huge effects in your life, and it opens up so much stuff. So I don't know if I'm answering your question anymore, but I love, and what I look for and what I desire to know in my field is not the big picture, deep meaning, philosophical explanations. It's that little tiny thing that anyone can change, that can make their life even that little bit better, right? Like, one of my favorite things to tell people is, when you feel stressed because you're running late, you just repeat to yourself, I have all the time in the world. I have all the time in the world. I have all the time in the world. I don't know anyone who actually has done that who hasn't come back to me and said, oh my God, it worked. Like, their stress level goes down. So I love, and I'm passionate about finding those little things. Now, it's your job to remember to do it, right? I can only do so much, but I love finding those little things that can really make a difference, because it opens you up. Then, if that can make a difference, well, then maybe I can change that too and make that better. And if I can change that, then I can make that. And then it keeps going. And I love that stuff.
I love that stuff as well. You gave me a cool idea as well now for a Facebook Live.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
So we're coming near the end, unfortunately. That's how
Yes.
fast it goes. And for each of my guests, I have a question, and I'd like your take to fill in the blanks on 3 of my core values. Creativity for you is?
Being free.
Passion for you is?
Being excited and enthusiastic.
Wisdom for you is?
Beautiful.
Can be one. I think I've grown heaps of hairs on my legs now from all the goosebumps. How do you want to change the world or challenge the world doing what you do?
I want to change the world. Well, 2 things. First of all, by giving them these little things that open them up, that they then see possibilities. I want them to know that they can. Like that is, and I want to change the world one person at a time, because that's what I can do. And every time someone up levels or someone goes to a higher vibration or someone is just a little bit happier, we contribute to our happier, better place. And I believe that the day will come that we'll reach the tipping point. Right now, we're trying to create what do they call it? The basic mass, right? And I think at some point we're going to have a tipping point where it will then become in everyone's grasp and reach. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And I'm just doing it one step, one person, one thing at a time, and doing the best I can.
I love that. It's a bit hard to imagine that you're doing it one person at a time, which I do understand and I say as well. But something just hit me because I was like, you're doing it with me, you're doing it with your kids, you're doing it with your husband, you're doing it with you. So it's more than one person and you're doing an amazing job.
Well, and I do, even when I speak, but one person, even when I speak and I have my message, and I've got a couple of gigs coming up soon, I want, even though I'm speaking to 50 people, my message is for each individual. And that is still one person at a time, because it's not, I want it to be personal to them. I want every time I work, whether I'm speaking to thousands of people or one person, that as an individual, it goes in, that it helps that single person, even if there's 50 single people in the room that I'm talking to as well.
Love that. Thank you so much for being here with us, Tanya. I loved having you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
Speak to you forever. And in the show notes, we'll be putting your favorite quote, your social media handles, where we can find you. And for all those listening, where they can get hold of you to do a mandala, draw a mandala with you, intuitive art, and flip the switch over there and give your soul a voice. And they're going to love it. And thank you so much for being here with us.
You are very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dang, that was just supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I enjoyed having you on board, and please do me and you a favor. Head on over to iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. Click subscribe, and a super bonus, leave your review and you stand a chance of being announced and advertised on the show. I'm always striving to ensure that your brand is uplifted and empowered. Remember, done is better than perfect. So be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and send in your feedback too. You're the absolute best. Keep rocking.